Are you a scaling SaaS founder?
Ready to make the leap from leading a team to leading an organization? Join us each week as we refill your think tank with actionable tips and strategies from great business minds you know and those who don't know yet. This is SaaS Fuel with your host, 5-time entrepreneur, SaaS founder, and globetrotting adventurer, Jeff Maines.
Welcome back to the SaaS Fuel podcast, where we tackle mission impossible tasks with more gadgets and smarts than Ethan Hunt on a good day. I'm your host, Jeff Maines. I help B2B SaaS founders like you scale from 7 figures, which is good, to 8 and 9 figures, which is outstanding. Together, we supercharge revenue growth, create premium valuation, and craft a business you're proud of and a life of impact and freedom that you love. Are you a fan of Mission Impossible? Big popular TV series back in the 60s and has become a huge movie franchise over the last 20 years. In fact, the 7th installment, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, hit theaters this summer. Part of the plot in the movie, there's an AI called the Entity and woven into the storyline. We talk a lot about AI on the show, and interestingly, after watching the movie, President Biden signed a new executive order on AI. So I don't know if anyone explained that it was just a movie or not, but technology is moving so fast, and particularly fast when it comes to AI. The iteration is just unbelievable. And I think every company has some things on their Mission Impossible list, but one of those that I never hear is happy customers. Almost every company I've asked says that their service levels are great. It's a strength. We're known, for our service, but we all know companies where that isn't true. So, is it just a myth? We also know companies who really are known for their service levels, and they stand out because we're not all at that level. Chick-fil-A comes to mind. Last time I talked about this, I had several people telling me it was impossible to compare their service levels with Chick-fil-A. I'm like, yeah, of course it isn't. We can all achieve that kind of a standard, but it takes a commitment. In the world of high stakes entrepreneurship, envision your customer service team, your client success team, like the IMF, the Impossible Mission Force from Mission Impossible. They are your specially trained operatives who can make or break the customer's perception of your SaaS platform. So we got to make sure that they are mission ready to turn every support ticket into a showcase of excellence. Your mission, should you choose to accept it. First up, operation empowerment. Equip your team with the tools and autonomy they need to solve problems creatively. This means comprehensive training on your product suite, and most importantly, the authority to make judgment calls without a rule book breathing down their necks. Senior leaders know that when team members are empowered, they're proactive. They own the customer relationship, and they will bend over backwards to find solutions that stick. And that's really, really important that you empower them to do that and make those decisions. But sometimes you do run into things that, there's just not a place that they fit in the mold. I mean, business is messy. So give them the power to make those calls themselves. Next, we want to initiate protocol trust. In a world of espionage, trust is the currency. And in the world of business, it's the foundation. Show genuine trust in your team's capabilities and decision-making. This isn't about leaving them in the field without backup, but about believing in their training and instinct. So it kind of goes back to making sure that you're training them well. When they feel trusted, they will act with confidence and authority, leading to swift, decisive actions that will wow your clients and customers wherever they are. Lastly, we want to launch codename recognition. Your agents in the field need to know that their hard work is acknowledged and appreciated. So whether it's the agent who just diffused the ticking time bomb of a client issue or the one who is consistently excellent, recognition goes a long way. Public shout-outs, tangible rewards, and a seat at the table when discussing strategy can boost morale and foster a sense of belonging. And that's one of the things that I was completely blown away with in my early days when somebody brought me in to help make decisions and sit at a board table when, I was they were way above my grade, but they brought me in. That gave me that sense of belonging, and I would do anything for that company. And so I think that's really, really important that when we empower our people, when we show that we trust them, when we bring them into the conversation, they will do amazing things. And I've seen that with my own teams as well. So by embracing these three principles, senior leaders can ensure that their customer service teams are not just going through the motions, which we see that all over the place, or that they're just, fulfilling tasks, but they're engaged and driven. And that is a real game changer in your organization. So it's one thing to say, hey, we got great service. It's another to have a team that is completely sold out to the mission, and they're engaged, they're driven, they're ready to tackle any mission. It doesn't even matter what it is. I mean, they're all in. They outperform not because you're on top of them or nag them into doing it or shame them into doing it or because you're really nice to them or you're really mean to them. No, they do it. They're all in, and they don't just accept the mission, but they commit to it. It's from the heart. It comes from the inside, not from the outside. And that approach doesn't just make good business sense. It creates a legacy of excellence that transcends transactions and transforms customer interactions into experiences worth talking about. This message will self-destruct 10 seconds. If you could use some more help turning those impossible missions into reality, check out my book, Small Fish, Big Pond, Building a World-Class Business That Swims Circles Around Competitors. Small Fish, Big Pond delivers powerful marketing and leadership lessons guaranteed to enhance your marketing message, wrap value around your clients, and guide their buying journey to conclude that your company is the only solution for them. It includes step-by-step frameworks, time-tested growth principles to attract ideal clients, convert them, and then transform them into your brand ambassadors. Pick up the print, ebook, or audio today at smallfishbigpond.com, Amazon, or your favorite book source. And remember, all book profits go to charity all the time. Our founder on Tuesday was Greg Rich, founder and CEO of Vivantio. The customer fanatics. We talked about challenges faced by companies delivering at high service levels, entering foreign markets, and an innovative approach to using AI for handling tickets. And our expert last week was Mike Porter, president at Print Mail Consultants. Mike and I talked about content marketing, how to engage the SMB market, and delivering content in some surprisingly effective ways. If you missed either one of those episodes, go back and give them a listen. My guest today is Arnab Mishra, COO of Xactly. Arnab is a seasoned cloud software exec with a history of leading and collaborating multiple departments together to drive revenue growth strategy and execution. Everyone needs a COO who can do that and understand sales. And such a great guy. Welcome, a true SaaS rock star, Arnab Mishra. Hey, Arnab, welcome to SaaS Fuel.
Well, thanks for having me, Jeff. I'm really looking forward to having this conversation.
Well, today we're talking all about sales and intelligent revenue and getting smarter, transforming from, sales being pure art to a lot of science. Tell me a little bit about your background and Xactly and how you bring intelligence into revenue.
Yeah. So my name's Arnab Mishra. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Xactly. We are a SaaS provider of sales performance management and revenue intelligence solutions. We help companies plan for their sales teams, incentivize their sales teams, and then help with kind of the day-to-day execution of the pipeline and the forecast. So we serve, a cross-section of salespeople, finance professionals, and operational professionals. And so our software really touches a variety of different people who care about revenue, are responsible for driving revenue in the organization. I've been with the company for about 6 years now. I'm currently, focused on product strategy, R&D, customer success, professional services. So I like to think about my job as, all the things that are involved in, innovating around our products, delivering them to our customers, and then making sure that our customers are happy with the solutions that they're getting.
So how does intelligent revenue and having a platform, how does it benefit businesses?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about, sales, I think historically sales has been thought of as this very sort of like human, artistic sort of endeavor where you spend a lot of time showing empathy and convincing people of a certain perspective of the world. That is all absolutely true. But I think what we've learned over time is that you have to complement that with a more scientific view of sales and how to prosecute deals and how to go after markets. And so we definitely spend a lot of our time thinking about how can we deliver technology that enables that science, that enables companies to make the best decisions they can with the data they have available or the data that's being generated through all the interactions they're having with customers to make those decisions. And so our focus area is very much around that. The way we've solved that problem is through what we call our intelligent revenue platform. And our perspective here is that in order to really solve this problem, you have to think end to end. You really have to solve all of the pieces of the puzzle that impact the ability of a sales team to perform and serve customers well. And that typically, starts with, things that happen well before the sales cycle. So when you're thinking about how do I sort of structure a sales team? How many reps do I need? How do I think about territories? How do I think about the quotas that I should be giving these reps given the territories that they've been given? In a lot of companies today, I think it's very much of a ad hoc process, and people are really, doing the best they can with a set of sort of tribal knowledge and heuristics that they may have. Our view is there's a lot of data here that can help inform those decisions. And there's a lot of workflows to bring people together to collaborate around this. So we help with that. And similarly with incentives, the reality is like you can have the best plan, but if the reps aren't given a set of incentives that align with that plan, they're going to do the best they can sort of, in a local optimization way instead of in a globally thought of global optimization way. And so we think a lot about, how we can help companies implement incentives that help them go achieve that plan. And those incentives, run the gamut. We've got customers across verticals, but we help them create those incentives and then manage them. And then once you have the incentives in place, how do you know that the sales teams are doing what they need to do day to day, that they're focusing on the right deal, they're taking the right actions on those deals? And so then we provide more science and more data to sort of say, hey, here's your pipeline of deals. Here's the health of those deals. Here's which deals are likely to close. Here's deals that maybe are lagging. And here are the steps that you can take to actually, prosecute those deals and move them forward and provide those insights that are so important for that day-to-day decision making.
I love that. So, one thing that you mentioned at the beginning there was talking about data-driven decisions and doing that. I think it's really important. We hear that all the time, but I'd say 98% of the companies that I work with, talk to, decisions are still made by gut feel. Either they don't have the data or they have the data and they don't trust it. So how do we become truly data-driven in our decisions?
Yeah, and I think that requires a set of sort of intentional decisions that a company needs to make. I mean, to your point, the thing about data is it's sort of garbage in, garbage out. So if you're not taking the time and the effort to capture the right information, it's going to be hard to be data driven. I think the good news is that the world has come a long way in that regard, and I think Salesforce, as an example of a vendor in this space, has done a great job. I think evangelizing the importance of having sort of a centralized system of record that's capturing a lot of data around customer interactions. And so, I think you went back 10, 15 years ago, it wouldn't be uncommon to find a company that didn't have a CRM system. Like that was, pretty common. I think today you find a lot of companies have SFA and CRM investments. I think the key thing that we now find is, are you using that CRM system appropriately and to the best of your ability? You still find a lot of sort of CRM deployments that are, the data is kind of dirty or it's inconsistently applied or there isn't a lot of good data hygiene. So generally, the first thing we recommend for our customers is you've got to implement and inculcate in your organization a set of sort of hygiene and processes where data is getting captured well. Once you have that, and our systems, do some of that work as well. Once you have that, you have the base layer that you need in order to put sort of intelligence on top of it, application software on top of it that can help you then become, raise the insights out of that data so that you can actually make decisions that are sort of driven by the information you're capturing.
And that makes sense, and especially garbage in, garbage out, and using the system effectively.
Mm-hmm.
Having something like it exactly, and you say intelligent revenue platform. Are you using artificial intelligence? Is AI, machine learning a piece of that to
Yeah,
help optimize revenue?
yeah, absolutely. Obviously, generative AI and AI, more generally, has been a hot topic for
Yeah,
some time now. I think in a lot of ways, we've been preparing for this moment for 18 years. We've done a number of things going back to our founding that really have set us up well for this moment in time. The three things that I think are important that we've done is, one, we have been partnering with our customers since the beginning of our time as a company to capture, empirical sales performance data. So we've actually, put in our customer agreements that, our customers will work with us to capture this data, to allow us to anonymize it, to allow us to aggregate it so that we can build this corpus of information that's so important when it comes to training AI models and having that, substrate of data. Over 90% of our customers sort of contribute into this data pool that we have. The second thing that we did is we've thought about our technology in a way that it's very good at gathering data across customers and homogenizing that data. So the thing about data sets is if you're not capturing data in a consistent way, it's really hard to use that data because it's, you have these odds and ends kind of data points. We bring it all together in a homogenized way, which is very unique for in our space in terms of vendors like us. And then the third thing we've done is we've expanded our product portfolio over time. The company was started as focused on incentive compensation. We've added the things that I've talked about, planning and sales forecasting and pipeline management. And as we've added these applications, we've captured a richer and richer data set that we can then put into our AI model. So all three of those things, working with our customers, having a technology that's purpose built to capture this information, and then expanding our purview across the revenue lifecycle so we capture more and more data, really has given us a very unique vantage point where we have a data set that frankly no one else has today in our industry and in a way that's usable for training AI models. And we are doing more and more around generative AI. So, we a couple months ago announced our generative AI offering. We call it Xactly AI Copilot. And so it's obviously the beginning of a journey for us, but we're very excited about the implications of this when it comes to delivering value to our customers.
I love that. Yeah, you're definitely in a position where you have access to lots of data points. You know what's going on in the marketplace and are really able to feed that in, build a model that models what's going on now, not years ago or guesses. So I think that's really, really unique about what you're doing, especially with AI.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Our view is that, we think about AI as helping in a variety of different ways. So one is we think about how can we leverage, in particular, generative AI to make data analytics and data insights much more usable for users. If you think about kind of the old line reporting and analytics, it's very much of what I would call a hunt and peck paradigm, right? I pull up a report, I drill down into the report, I'm sort of looking for that nugget of knowledge that's going to help me make a decision. Generative AI is going to be super helpful in making that more of a conversation between the user and the data, right? Asking the questions that you're looking at for answers for, being able to refine your thinking as you're asking those questions. And so I think there's going to be a massive shift in the user paradigm around how, companies, how users interact with the data that all these systems are capturing. The second thing that I think is yeah, go ahead.
I think you're exactly right. That a lot of times, especially operations or sales or leadership, we know what the data that we want, but don't necessarily know how to get that or how to get the answers. But we know the questions that we're asking, and sometimes somebody has to go build a report or do something special to get us the data. And so I think that's such a game changer, just to be able to ask a question and get back an answer that you can make a decision on right now.
Yeah, completely agree. And I think, that's the first, in our mind, that's the first layer of value that generative AI is going to deliver. And I think a lot of the things that you're seeing kind of come out in the marketplace, are kind of, looking in that direction of how do you harness all of this data, all these software intermediated interactions that are capturing information, how do you leverage that? We also think there are opportunities around automating workflows, particularly in enterprise SaaS applications. If you think about a SaaS application, obviously it's a great repository of data, but then it's also helping you run a business process, right? And depending on how broad or complex that business process is, maintaining and configuring and managing that business process can be a job unto itself. And our view is that you can take generative AI and use that mechanism to instruct the machines. So instead of going in and configuring a bunch of stuff in an application, and then when the executive team says, hey, we want to change our business process and do something differently, and someone goes back in and then changes, goes back and munges those processes again, there's an opportunity, we think, with generative AI to sort of say, well, okay, here's what I want the machine to do. Here's what the business process should look like. And then the machine goes off and says, okay, given what you want, here's how you would configure this. Let me go off and configure it. And let me give you sort of like that configuration back so that you can test it. And we think that is equally as potentially powerful because, in a lot of enterprise software applications, the amount of knowledge you have to manage those applications tends to be pretty high. Like you need to know how this thing works and how you can get it to do things. Here, it would significantly reduce that level of knowledge, which would then mean that a broader set of people could actually effectively use the software to deliver value to the business.
That is pretty amazing. It's really, really good thinking, very forward thinking. I like that.
Yeah.
Well, as we think about sales planning, what are the key elements of a successful go-to-market strategy in today's SaaS landscape?
Yeah, I think, there are so many, but I think, the first, the way I think about planning is it's sort of like a two-sided coin. On one side, you have to really understand the markets that you're serving and the current state of those markets, right? So what is buyer demand like? What are the segments that we're serving? What are the different use cases? Because if you have a good understanding of the markets that you're serving, it helps you inform the other side of the coin, which is how do I set up, my teams to go attack what I'm seeing in the marketplace. And so in our applications, we provide sort of the ability to model both sides of the external market as well as the internal teams that are going to go address that market. So, for example, in our territory product, we allow you to pull in external data that tells you here's how many customers are in the world that I'm addressing. Here's how I can divide them up. Here's the potential spend of those customers, or the total addressable market opportunity for those customers. And so, we provide the ability to bring that sort of outside in view into the planning process. And then from there, we provide a set of tools that allow you to model what different go-to-market strategies could look like. What happens if I take my team and I separate them into a hunter-farmer model? What happens if I do a hybrid rep model? What happens if I set up my territories in one way? What happens if I go regional? What happens if I go vertical based? What happens if I do logical territories instead of physical territories? And in many cases, what you find in companies is the sales leader will have like a set of biases around what they think will work. But what we do is we validate those biases, or we dispute, or we negate those biases by saying, the data says that it's something different.
Wow. Yeah, that is really, really good. I think you're right. A lot of times it's the leader has an idea and it's like, this worked in this company and we're going to do the same thing here because I know that works. And maybe it does, but having the data there and actually being able to make a much more informed decision that's just gold.
Yeah. And this is a place where I think, AI can be really helpful, right? Because as you're going through these modeling choices, right? Because if you think about planning is just an output based on a bunch of assumptions, right? Like we're assuming, 36 things. I think we've actually tried to map it out, for ourselves. And we think in any kind of plan, there's typically like 36 to 48 different assumptions. And the reality is that if any one of these assumptions is off, or if you have a bunch of assumptions that are slightly off, you end up being, pretty far off of the target. And so this is where we think AI and data analytics can be helpful because, the system can then tell you, hey, based on all the information that we have and all the information that's been provided, we think this assumption should be this, or it should be in this range. And one of the things that we spend a lot of time thinking about is explainability of AI, right? Because one of the things that people sometimes get hung up on is, well, the AI system is telling me this, but it doesn't really comport with my intuition, and I don't really
Right.
believe it, right? And so the way we've tried to manage that is to say, okay, the system is giving you this prediction. Here's why. Here are the factors that are going into this prediction. Here's how it's sort of like, maybe it's something that swings prediction one way versus another way. So you get a sense for how the machine has been processing this information. I almost said thinking, but the machine is not thinking. The machine is processing this information. And so you can decide, okay, do I go with what the machine is saying, or do I more heavily weight one of the things it's talking about or an external factor and change it for myself? And so you really take this away from a world where everything's kind of done from the hip and people are just sort of making assumptions based on a set of heuristics to something that's much more data informed in the way that it's done.
That's really smart. Yeah, I think the sales plans are one of the hard things. It's a big mystery of here's where we need to get to, and here's the plan that we're going to get there. And if the model doesn't work, then they just change the numbers to make the model look better. But it doesn't necessarily change the underlying assumptions or the real data behind it.
Yeah.
So I think being able to make better decisions. Yeah.
The other thing I would add here is when you think about sales planning, there's also a very human sort of collaboration focused element to it, right? So if you think about a sales plan, there's obviously the top down, which is, the board and the senior executive team saying, here are the goals that we want to achieve next year, and that's typically driven by, thoughts around market share and top line revenue growth and other sort of strategic imperatives. But then there's also sort of this bottoms up view, right? Because the sales teams and the sales reps are close to the deals, they're close to the customers, and they know kind of what they think is possible in any given period of time. And planning is really a reconciliation of those two views, right? We have these corporate goals that are coming from a set of strategic objectives, but then there's sort of like the reality on the ground of what's achievable, what's a stretch, what's a layup, what's easy. And so that collaboration is really hard to do in the absence of software, right? Because, what it looks like in most companies without software in this process is a lot of spreadsheets, a lot of emails, a lot of ad hoc meetings, right? Where people are trying to triangulate around what should this plan be. Our view is that if you use software, Xactly software to run this process, not only do you get the AI data-driven decision making, but you also get the built-in collaboration that our software provides, where different people across the organization can add in their own content and intellect into what they think the numbers should be. You can track all of those things. You can reconcile it. You can have approvals and workflows that allow people to say, hey, yeah, I buy off on that assumption or that plan. Let me move it on to my manager so that they can take a look at it, and sort of keeping an audit trail of all of that so people know, hey, has everyone weighed in on this? Does everyone agree with what we're doing here before we hit, the finalization stamp on this plan? And I think both the AI piece and this collaboration piece are equally valuable and are both, frankly, needed if you're going to do a good job of sales planning in organizations.
Yeah. Well, it's like the collaboration. It's the eternal balancing act, aligning sales teams' objectives with the broader revenue goals of the organization. And how do you do that without, crushing creativity or initiative within the sales team?
Yeah. I mean, I think for every sales team and for every organization, the line that you're trying to balance is setting a set of goals that are achievable, but that require a bit of a stretch for everyone to stretch and everyone to think, harder about how to get there. Any company, having unrealistic expectations is completely demotivating and frankly is not super helpful for the company at all. But then also lowballing your expectations potentially leaves money on the table and doesn't sort of give people the motivation and the incentives to really think differently and to stretch themselves. And this is where I think data-driven sales planning that has a great deal of collaboration in it is the way to get to that, realistic but achievable goals that every company is trying to put into their plans.
So we've got the sales plan, and then how do we take that, roll it out to the reps, and then align compensation around that? I think that's one of the things that's missing. Is there's a lot of times a misalignment in the activities that we want, or the goals that we set, and the way that that sales reps are compensated.
Yeah, that is 100% true. We see it all the time, in prospects that we're talking to, where the compensation plan is typically devoid, is somehow there's an air gap between the compensation plan and what the corporate plan needs. And so, our view is that that is an eminently solvable problem. It requires a little bit of, thinking and alignment across the different stakeholders. And again, that whole notion of collaboration, rears its head again, because if you've collaborated well between the sales teams, the finance teams, and the operations teams, and the executive teams in setting up the plan, it's now much easier for those people to now collaborate around the compensation plan as well. Because sometimes what happens is the sales plan gets created, and then the compensation plan is almost treated like a different step, like something that's separate from it. When the reality is it's a continuation, right? And which is why, in our view of the intelligent revenue platform, that's why these two things make sense to pull together into a single platform, because they're inextricably linked. Your territory and quota decisions impact your incentive compensation plan. And generally what we found is that when you create that alignment, the right incentives follow, right? Because, the people who are, running these things, generally we find our customers are really good at what they do. It's just having that clarity around what the plan needs, and thus what the compensation elements should be, that not having that air gap is what allows these incentive plans to be very effective. Our general view is that simpler compensation plans are better. If you need to take a course to understand how your comp plan works, from a rep perspective, you're probably going to have a tough time maximizing that comp plan, which is in what the company would want you to do. So we generally guide our customers to fewer measures, more a more straightforward sort of model where you don't have a lot of gating or a lot of things that you got to do this before you can do that, before you can do this in order to make your comp. And then we generally also recommend to our customers that you should reward over performance, right? So the notion of a curved pay structure, or accelerators, or spiffs, where there's an opportunity to earn more if you're doing certain things that are highly strategic to the business. Those are all good ways to make sure that the incentive plan is aligned with the sales plan and the company's corporate objectives.
That's really good. I don't hear simplify nearly enough. And I have conversations all the time. And, if a sales team is underperforming, one of the things you look at is compensation, and even ask the reps, how do you make money? How are you paid? And a lot of times, way too often, they can't really articulate it, because it's so convoluted that, they know I sell this and I get paid, and, the things that they understand, they sell. And the pieces of the comp plan that they don't understand, they just ignore those. Mm-hmm. It's crazy.
Yeah. We, because we collect all of this data across customers, and we're, anonymizing it and aggregating it, we've been able to look at that data, and it's shown us that, comp plans that have anywhere between 3 and 4 measures tend to be the most effective comp plans, right? That, you tend to lose something, as you get beyond, 3 or 4 measures, and you tend to not capture everything you need if you're below, 3 or 4 measures. And so there seems to be, from the data that we've seen, a sweet spot. And you'll be amazed at how many, companies are sort of outside of that sweet spot. They've got, they've got so many measures that a rep is sort of doing, multivariable calculus to sort of understand, how do these measures play? How do I optimize this measure for that measure? And it just they spend way too much time on that versus spending the time doing the thing that's actually going to add value for them and for the company, which is engaging with customers, and solving their problems.
I like that. And that just makes so much sense. 3 or 4. I mean, do this, get that. And it just makes it really, really easy for them when they really understand what it is that they're supposed to do. And they can go do that over and over and over again. And that's where they get traction.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Really, really good. Well, once we've got to that aligned and going to market, then we've got the pipeline. And so it's, one of those pipeline reports, what's real, what's not, what is likely to close, what's completely made up. How can we create pipelines and forecasts with confidence? What is the secret sauce for maintaining pipeline accuracy?
Yeah. I mean, this is sort of the bane of every salesperson and sales manager,
yes.
Right? And I think, look, our view is that, this is a discipline that is born of experience, and it's born of, there is something to the intuition that salespeople develop over time around which deals are likely to close and which deals aren't likely to close. And you got to look in the whites of your customer's eyes and really listen to what they're saying to sort of make that judgment. And so our view is that in the near term, we're not replacing that intuition. What we're doing is we're adding a layer of data to help guide that intuition and to make it more valuable. And so I very much view our pipeline management and forecasting capabilities as not a replacement for the forecasting work that the sales team does, but really as an augmentation of that work. And there it's really, leveraging all the things that, software and technology is good for, capturing all the information and all the data that's happening in all of these interactions that reps are having with customers. For us, that data could be captured in a CRM system. It could be captured in an email thread. It could be captured in a call recording that's happening and the transcript that comes out of that recording. All of those data points help our forecasting application understand the health of a deal. Once we have all that information, then it's the job of the AI system to sort of say, hey, I'm going to capture all of these data points. I have a model of what good looks like. And let me give you sort of a view into the health of this opportunity. And then from there, let me, given all of the other deals that I've seen, tell you what I think needs to happen in order for this deal to go from its current health level to a higher health level to a closed opportunity. Again, all of these things are in many ways guidelines and a navigational map, if you will, for the rep and the manager to decide, what do we do next? How should we classify this deal? Should this go into our commit? Is this really a best case deal, or is this a deal that it's not likely going to happen, this quarter or this month or this week, whatever the case might be? And it helps them get much more, accurate and much more, data driven around how they're doing their pipeline and forecasting.
That's really, really good. I think one of the things that fascinates me about our conversation is your title. And you're not the typical salesperson. And I think it's really fascinating how a tool like Xactly or something similar can unite sales, marketing, and finance, which are a lot of times butt heads, especially in larger organizations. So I think it's really interesting. Talk a little bit about that, and just what about the collaboration and alignment between the different teams in the organization?
Yeah, and that is, a lot of companies struggle with that alignment. It's a great call out that you provided. And I think, my perception of it is a lot of that is driven by the fact that all of these groups have a different view into the world, right? So they're looking at everything from a little bit of a different angle, right? Finance looks at it one way, sales and marketing looks at it a different way. And as a result, everybody's got their own peephole into the universe, and the part of the universe they're seeing, is informing their thinking. And there isn't sort of a common view of the reality of what's happening. And I think part of that is because historically, either these systems haven't been, or these groups haven't been, driven by software. They haven't made the investments in software, or the investments they've made are highly siloed, right? So when we thought about the intelligent revenue platform, part of our thinking is that by pulling everything together into a platform, what you're doing is you're building this alignment. You're building the alignment between the finance, sales, and marketing teams, because everything is in the same platform. All the data is unified. So we're not each looking at sort of our set of data. We're all looking at all of the data, and we're able to now collaborate. And so generally what we find, and I think, the RevOps movement is a great sort of, I think the intent of the RevOps movement is largely is bringing these diverse perspectives together to create one unified perspective, so that we're not debating the facts anymore. We're debating what we should do given a common set of facts. And we definitely find, in companies that have deployed all of our software, they quickly move into this mode where now it's not, hey, I've got my facts, you've got your facts, and the other group's got their facts, and then we're all drawing conclusions. Right. Now it's, hey, we've all got the facts. It's the same set of facts. And now we're working collaboratively to figure out, okay, what do we do to move the business forward?
That's good. I love that. Not arguing about the facts, but what do we do with the facts?
Yeah, exactly.
So that's where this is the discussions we should be having. But a lot of times it's not. We are arguing about what the facts are. Is the data correct, or seeing it from the different perspectives? And so I like that you're able to really kind of see that holistic view. And so it breaks down silos.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And if you look at companies that are performing sort of in the top quartile, top decile, the thing that they have in common is that these groups that all touch revenue, care about revenue, are working much more closely together and in concert than competitors or other companies that haven't figured out how to get these groups to work well together.
Yeah. Well, let's do some myth busting. What is the biggest misconception about revenue intelligence or RevOps that you'd like to clear up?
Yeah, I think one myth that happens is, we want to invest in this because it's going to just automate some stuff for us, and so we'll need less people to do that, and so we'll get some cost savings. That is 100% true, right? If these systems and our applications meaningfully reduce the amount of human labor that's required. But the real value of that is that it frees people up to do the strategic value-added work that they want to be doing, right? When we talk to our users, especially ones who are prospects who haven't adopted our software yet, the thing that we hear over and over again is, man, I spend so much of my day doing these mundane, rote tasks just to keep the kind of machine running, if you will.
Right.
And if I could just get out of doing that, then I could do all the value-added strategic work that's good for the business, that help me contribute more to the business, and frankly is good for my career, because that's what's going to allow me to get noticed. It's what's going to allow me to grow as a professional. And so I think people get really focused on the efficiencies and the cost reduction, and that's great. We continue to deliver that value, but the real sort of game changer and the thing that makes a significant step function difference for our customers is the ability to make better decisions, to be more nimble in sort of adjusting and course correcting, as things in the market change, and to allow people the time and the bandwidth to think about these things and really apply, their knowledge. So when we talk to customers, we say, great, you're going to get the cost savings, and frankly, in a lot of cases, that more than pays for the software. But the real value you're going to get is in performance improvements, revenue, top line revenue growth, which is going to be a function of the fact that your teams now are going to be better aligned. They're going to be collaborating better. They're going to have data at their fingerprints to make better decisions. And all of that is going to help you drive better performance in your organization.
Yeah. So in addition to the top line revenue, does it also affect customer churn and increase lifetime value?
Yeah, so through our applications, one, if you're, planning well, you're more likely addressing your ICP and you're going after customers who are the best fit for your products. And so that naturally will have an impact on churn and it'll improve, retention and customer satisfaction. Similarly, if your incentive plan is delivered in such a way that you're incentivizing your reps to sell the right combination of products and services to your customers that delivers the greatest success for your customers, you're more likely to have customers that are buying enough of your wares that they're going to be, happy for life, as opposed to, in certain cases, we have, companies that treat a dollar as a dollar is a dollar. I don't care if they're selling them the blue widget, the red widget, or the yellow widget, when the reality is, for certain customers, it's the blue and the red widget together that's sort of the secret sort of to customer happiness. And so you can embed that in your incentive plans, and that results in better customer happiness. And so we know that, in the end, if I were to abstract away, I'd say that being data-driven and really understanding through the data what good looks like for your business is really the key to to solving for customer happiness and customer success.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, besides MRR and churn, what are some maybe unconventional metrics that sales teams should be paying attention to?
Yeah, I mean, so the way we think about it is there's sort of like input metrics and output metrics. So the output metrics
Okay.
are like, bookings and ARR and sort of those things that, investors in Wall Street tend to care about. On the input side, it's things like, what is your distribution of quota attainment across your sales team, right? Are you having a situation where, a good chunk of your team is at a good percentage of their overall attainment? It differs for companies, but a good benchmark is 80% of your team at 80% attainment, right? Which would be a very healthy team. I mean, very hard to achieve. You typically get a bit more of a bimodal distribution or a normal distribution, but that is a great input metric, because if you can get a good distribution of attainment, you're probably going to go hit your numbers anyway. But it also means that you're doing a great job in a variety of other areas when it comes to onboarding your reps, training your reps, making sure their territories are robust, that the incentives are aligned, so that you're driving the right behaviors so that they can achieve their goals. So I think that's sort of an important one. The other metrics that we think tend to be important are around conversion rates, just generally conversion rates, right? So if you look at your funnel, what are your conversion rates from stage to stage, and optimizing those conversion rates and really understanding where the drop-offs are can be really helpful in understanding, where in our process are things not working. We also, look at conversion rates against how often are we looking at deals that aren't getting done? There's just no decision, because that might, inform for you when your targeting is off, or maybe you're not making the value case as strongly as you could, and the customer doesn't feel compelled to necessarily move forward with the purchase. And so I think all of these things are input metrics, right, that really give you a sense for the health of your go-to-market teams and the performance and the execution of those teams.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, no decision has got to be one of the biggest enemies of any sales team. I mean, I see that all the time.
Yeah.
And you go through the entire process and nothing happened.
Yeah.
So, why? What were we doing wrong? And where are things falling apart? And, what stage? I like that, tracking from stage to stage. It doesn't happen nearly enough. Well, you busted one great myth, and there's another one that actually your CEO, Christopher Cabrera, has a new book out today called The Unicorn Fallacy. Tell me about that.
Yeah, Chris has been, thinking about this book for quite some time now. It's exciting that it's out in the world for people to consume. I think he's aggregated years and years of experience as an entrepreneur and as a CEO into the book, and people should go out and get it. I've had the privilege of being able to read an early copy, and so it'll definitely be worth folks' time. And I think and I think this is largely born of, frankly, the moment we're in. It's very apropos for the moment we're in, because if you go back, the last 3, 5, 7 years, especially if you've been in the tech industry, it has been a growth at all costs sort of world, right? Where what the only thing that mattered is growth. It didn't really matter if you were growing by setting piles of money on fire. Every revenue dollar was a good revenue dollar. That was sort of the world we lived in. And frankly, I think people were reacting to the context that they were in. For a long time,
sure.
Money was effectively free. Central banks around the world had kept interest rates at or near zero. And so there was just mass liquidity and money plowing, and money was accessible for folks. Over the last 18 months, as I think most of your listeners know, the world has changed pretty dramatically, right?
Yep.
We've had inflation rear its head across the globe. We've had central banks around the world increase interest rates. Capital now costs something, and when capital costs something, investors expect a return on that capital, and that return typically comes in the form of profitability, right? And so now we've gone from a grow at all costs model to a how do you grow efficiently and profitably. And so, I think Chris provides in his book a really interesting perspective on that. And I think it sort of aligns with a lot of the things that we've been talking about today, where, if you are going to grow efficiently and profitably, it requires you to bring that science, that data-driven approach, that collaboration across all the people in your company and harnessing all of their knowledge and skills in order to drive that efficiency. And I think, we are probably, in an age now for the foreseeable future where successful companies are going to be ones that are able to harness their resources most effectively, be most efficient in how they grow. And I think, the book does a good job of sort of framing that discussion and providing some guidance around kind of what strategies could look like.
And if you could leave us with one piece of advice, companies looking maybe to revamp their sales process, and really grow and have a sales process that works, what would that be?
Yeah, I mean, what we tell our customers is, take a systems level view of your sales team and your go-to-market motion. I think it's very easy for even executives to get hung up on what are the 3 deals we have to close this quarter in order to make the quarter. And that is a never-ending treadmill that you're on, or hamster wheel, whatever analogy you want to use. And so what we, ask our customers to do is take a step back and think about what are the systems that I need to put in place to scale, to make this replicatable, to make this efficient, and then intentionally put a roadmap in place that gets you from where you are today to that end state. You're not, Rome was not built in a day. Delivering systematic performance is not going to happen overnight, but you've got to take that first step. And we strongly encourage, our customers to think about which steps are the highest value. How can I sequence these steps to get to a position where I have an integrated intelligent revenue platform that's helping me solve for all of these different challenges so that I'm systematically growing my business. And so that's sort of our view of the world. It's working for a number of our customers. And we love to, talk to people about it. It's sort of, our passion and hopefully that's something that folks can take away from this discussion.
Very good. At what stage should companies be thinking about implementing this? I mean, how many reps or at what revenue level?
I mean, it's a DNA that frankly any company should be building from pretty early on. I would say once you get to, definitely once you get to 20, 30, 40 reps and beyond, you should really be spending time on it because, once you get to that point and you can't manage everything, in one conference room with a couple of, pizza pies to feed the team, you're at the point where, you probably need to get much more regimented about how you're managing the team, how you're bringing people into the fold, how you're making sure you make them successful. And so the great thing about the application software we have is that it's highly applicable to companies that have thousands and tens of thousands of reps, as it is down to companies that have dozens of reps.
Very good. Where can people learn more about you and about Xactly online?
Yeah, so check us out on our website at Xactly Corp. So Xactly starts with an X. We don't have an E in our name, so it's Xactly Corp, CORP.com. You can learn all about our products, our the technology we're deploying, the customers who are using us, and you can learn something about our team as well. We've got a management page up there.
Outstanding. Hey, Arnab, thanks for being on SaaS Fuel today. Really enjoyed our conversation.
Awesome, Jeff. It's been great to be on, and thanks for having me.
Thanks again, Arnab, for coming on the show and sharing your insights and expertise. You can learn more about Arnab and Xactly at xactlycorp.com. Remember, Xactly starts with an X. So just like there's no X in espresso and there's no E in Xactly, so it's just Xactly. And some of you are like, there's no X in espresso? No, there's not. Got a funny story about that. Ask me, I'll tell you. All links, highlights, resources, and full show notes are available at saasfuel.com. And be sure to check us out on YouTube. Full-length episodes, shorts, lots more content there. Subscribe or follow us, and everyone who subscribes this week gets a velvet rope vaporizer. Because you should always be rolling VIP. Why have barriers to your VIP status when you can miss them out of existence wherever you go? There you go. Subscribe today. Grab that velvet rope vaporizer. Well, join us next Tuesday where our founder is Cameron Harold, founder of the COO Alliance and Second in Command podcast. He has built 2 $100 million companies and another as COO. We'll be talking about what makes a great second in command, the role of the COO, and how the right executor skyrockets growth. And then next week on our SaaS Fuel Expert Series, we have James Allen from Profit Your Knowledge, where we talk about how to engage your prospects, adding value around your solution, and some interesting ways to monetize your content. So I will see you next time. And as always, enjoy the journey.
Thanks for listening to SaaS Fuel. Full show notes for each episode, which includes a summary, key takeaways, quotes, and any resources mentioned, are available at saasfuel.com. Be sure to follow and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you're enjoying the content and getting value from these episodes, please leave us a rating and review at ratethispodcast.com/SaaSfuel. We'll be sure to read these out on future episodes.